Nick and Aryna Sabalenka. One comment sparked a firestorm across tennis. It didn't start on a court. There was no match, no rally, no scoreline. It started with a few words that traveled faster than any ball ever could. And within hours, the tennis world was split. Nick has never been careful with how he speaks. For years, he's said what many players think, but never say publicly. Sometimes fans appreciate the honesty. Other times, it makes the sport uncomfortable. This time, it did both. While discussing a possible battle of the sexes style exhibition, he suggested that the physical gap between men's and women's tennis would be obvious if they competed directly. He wasn't attacking anyone personally, but the way it was framed, reopened a debate tennis has tried to move past for decades. The reaction was immediate. Fans argued, players responded, social media picked sides. And suddenly, Aryna Sabalenka was pulled into a conversation that went far beyond one comment. Sabalenka didn't rise quietly. She earned her place through power, consistency, and resilience. A multiple Grand Slam champion, a world #1 contender, one of the most dominant forces in modern tennis. To many fans, comparing her achievements to a hypothetical exhibition didn't feel neutral. It felt dismissive. Not because of biology, that discussion isn't controversial, but because the comparison always seems to appear at the same moment. Whenever women's tennis reaches a new level, someone reminds the world of what men could do. The idea of a battle of the sexes has history. In 1973, Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs was bigger than tennis. It challenged assumptions and reshaped how women's sports were viewed around the world. But tennis today is not tennis in 1973. Men and women don't chase the same records. They don't compete under the same conditions. They aren't judged by the same benchmarks. They exist on different tours, with different demands, different pressures, and different measures of success. And yet, whenever women's tennis gains momentum, the conversation often circles back to comparison. That's why Sabalenka's response mattered. She didn't insult anyone. She didn't escalate the argument. She talked about respect, about the idea that women's tennis doesn't need validation through men's competition to prove its value, that excellence doesn't require comparison to be legitimate. She reminded the sport, quietly, firmly, that it is already changing, already evolving, and already demanding recognition. At the center of the storm is a familiar figure in tennis, exceptionally talented, deeply polarizing, always operating on the edge of the sports culture. Some fans believe he speaks uncomfortable truths. Others believe he understands controversy better than anyone else in the game. Both things can be true at the same time. But timing matters. Women's tennis is arguably stronger right now than it has ever been. Attendance is rising. Prize money is growing. Rivalries are compelling. Players like Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, and Rybakina are drawing massive global interest. They're not asking for respect anymore. They're earning it on courts around the world, match by match. That's why this debate didn't fade after a few days. It touched something deeper than one comment or one player. It became about identity, about progress, about whether women's sports are allowed to exist without being measured against something else. There was no apology, no official resolution, no rule change, just a conversation that exposed how divided fans still are. Some sided with honesty, others sided with respect. And that's why this moment matters, because tennis is evolving. The athletes are changing, the audience is growing. But the language around women's sports is still catching up. And every time a comment like this resurfaces, it reminds us how far the conversation still has to go. This debate didn't produce a winner. It revealed a fault line, and it left behind a question that still hasn't been answered. When women's tennis is breaking records, selling out arenas, and producing champions, why are we still measuring it against something else instead of letting it stand on its own?